I don't think love languages are real.
Why?
I just think they're something some guy made up. He wrote a book about it and it's catchy. So people just decided to roll with it.
But do you not think love languages are a way to sort of strengthen your relationship? Do you not think people
when
communicate in different, not dialects, but different ways in terms of their actions?
When I say I don't think they're real, I just, like, they're things you can apply to anyone, but you can apply multiple of them to any relationship. So what are the love languages? I know there's physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, gift giving, and acts of service.
Acts of service.
Like
doing things for others. Yeah, okay, cool, yeah.
Breakfast with someone or something.
Yeah, okay.
You can apply multiple of them to any relationship. So you if you ask someone what their love language is, they could say they could name all 5 of them and say all 5 of them apply. So they're just things that you do in a relationship to try and help sustain your relationship.
I hear what you're saying, right? But let's just take maybe like 2 of the love languages, for example. So you have acts of service and like gift giving.
Yeah.
And then the other 3 might not exist in a person's sort of communication when it comes to expressing love, right?
Yeah.
Where was I going with it? So if you have the 2 like acts of service and gift giving,
yeah,
right, that's somebody's way of expressing love to somebody else. Whereas if you take another person's perspective and you're like, if you take another person's perspective and you take another person's love language and they don't have the 2 that I mentioned,
yeah,
do you not think there's an incongruency when it comes to the relationship? So there's a miscommunication essentially. So one person might not think that they're loved by another because they think that gift giving is something that you should essentially just do as a norm in a relationship.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, but I think when people ask the question, oh, what's your love language? Then most of them are just going to come up with one. They're not going to say multiple.
Mm-hmm.
And 99% of the time, if you ask a guy what's his love language, he's going to say physical touch. So it's just like, it's not important to a relationship. But I see what you're saying in terms of it doesn't really align, and you do need to try and understand what the other person wants from you and expects from you to try and keep them happy, essentially.
I think, like, obviously you think differently, right? And we already know that, but I think in terms of like sustaining and maintaining a healthy relationship, I think it's important to sort of define, not necessarily at the start, but to sort of figure out what your partner's love language already is. So therefore you don't have any sort of miscommunication later on in your relationship, you know? I think love language.
But I mean, you could argue that you should do all of those anyway.
You can.
You shouldn't just focus on one.
No, that's
just because the person says so. Just because the person says their love language is physical touch, it doesn't mean you shouldn't focus on spending quality time with them or acts of service or the other ones.
No, that's a fair point.
So they're just all things you should engage in a relationship anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why it's nothing special.
But like a woman's love language may not be physical touch. She may not be interested in just the physical side of the relationship. And if you remove that, then your woman will be.
But that's a whole other topic. Then that's asking, is physical intimacy a necessary part of a relationship?
Alright, cool. So
I would argue it is.
Let's put acts of service in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you focus on acts of service, which is essentially like doing things for your partner or doing things for other people to express your love, for example, like making breakfast or what in the morning, whatever it is. Yeah. Say if somebody doesn't do that, but then you know, your partner's like, oh, you never make breakfast for me in the morning, blah 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 blah. They're probably gonna see that your lack of act of service is your way of saying that you don't love them, or you don't care about me.
Mm.
So I feel like you're right in saying that these are things that we should do anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to define how you express your love at some point in your relationship. Do you get what I mean? Because like we all have sort of different upbringings and whatnot. Like for example, if you come from like an Asian heritage like I do, like more often than not, like things like acts of service, they're like a massive
important, yeah.
They're very important. Whereas, you know, like saying to your child saying to your Asian child in your family, saying I love you, it doesn't really often happen.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm
very
doing
true.
with that?
That's very true. I think
So
then it comes down to communication, and then I would ask the question, what's actually important in a relationship? So going back to me saying love languages aren't real, I can say that these are things that you should do in a relationship and will help you sustain a relationship, but I wouldn't make them the sole focus of how to make my relationship better. There are definitely other things that you should focus on.
True. No, I actually agree with you. I actually have nothing to respond to that. Like, I think there's a lot that you can say on both sides of the argument.
Like, you can't just say my love language is this and expect them to
understand it straight away.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to communication. So I feel like there's other traits that are more important for a relationship, like communication. But there's also other aspects of life which are more important to a relationship, like your childhood, your attachment style, things like that. Whether you're secure, avoidant, or anxious attachment. Basically meaning, like, if someone leaves you and returns, it determines how you respond to them. Whether when they return you're just going to ignore them, when they return you're going to react in a negative way, being angry and kind of making them feel bad for them leaving you, sort of thing.
Went straight over my head.
No, not in terms of like breaking up and getting back together, but say I'll give an example in a relationship. If you're talking on the phone, then one person says, "Oh, I need to go do this thing."
Yeah.
But the other person has a specific type of attachment, then maybe once they've gone to do the thing and calls them again, that person reacts in a negative way.
But why would they react it? Because
of their childhood.
Yeah.
Because of how when they were raised, if the parent went away, like, it starts from when you're a baby. So like if you're crying and then the child then the parent leaves, and then they come back, and then the child is soothed by the parent returning, that's a secure attachment. But if the child responds by just continuing to ignore the parent or reacting negatively when they do return, trying to make them feel bad,
it's an anxious attachment style.
That's anxious or avoidant.
Yeah, avoidant or anxious, they pretty much coincide. But
so I think there's other things that matter more.
It's tough. It's a tough thing to sort of debate on, because I think when you mentioned that, like, it all sort of stems from childhood and things like that, I think, you know, a lot of the ways we express our love in the future, obviously not in the future but in your adulthood, is reflected based on your childhood.
Yeah.
So it's like I was saying earlier, like, you know, I've never had in my family like people saying I love you this and whatever.
Yeah, if you're a minority, that's not normal.
If you're a minority, it's not normal. But my point is, I think you've outdone me on this argument.
What do you mean?
I think you've outdone me. You've put me in a corner. I don't know what to say, because obviously I do think that love languages do exist. But then when you said to me that these are things that you should be doing anyway, it kind of put things into perspective for me. So I think you've kind of changed my opinion on it now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I pat myself on the back for that one. Yeah, I just think there are things that are more important. Like, when it comes to determining if you're going to be in a relationship with someone, you shouldn't be asking yourself, "Oh, is this person gonna have the right love language for me? Are they gonna be able to do a certain thing for me?" I think there are things that are more important. For me, I think things like morals and character traits are more important.
What else would you say is more important than love language in a relationship? Because I feel this is one thing I do want to say, actually, but I think I'm being a bit repetitive here, but I feel like at some point when you do have that miscommunication and you think somebody or you think your partner doesn't care enough about you, obviously you're gonna start having feelings of neglect.
Yeah.
And that's when your relationship sort of starts to crumble, because one person starts to withdraw because they think they're not cared about enough.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's dependent upon you or your partner to sort of identify how somebody is expressing their love for you. Do you get me? That's why I think love languages exist.
What, so you think it's your own responsibility to identify how they want to be loved?
Say that again.
So
I think it's my responsibility to identify how they want to be loved.
do you not think it's their responsibility to
tell you?
communicate it?
I think it's both. I think it's your responsibility to show the love in the way the person wants to be loved. Do you get me?
Yeah. But in terms of finding that out,
they
have to communicate that to you.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Like, read their mind.
I've kind of just said two different things there.
I see what you're saying.
I kind of just said two different things there, but no, it's hard now because of the statement that you said earlier that you should be doing these things anyway.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. Like when you look at the love languages that we've listed, like acts of service, blah 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 blah. It's like these are things that should be done anyway in the normal relationship to sustain a healthy relationship. But at the same time, like not everybody is the same, you know. So somebody might not do an act of service, or somebody might not give gifts as often, and obviously, I feel like this whole topic is quite subjective in itself.
Yeah.
I think it's quite subjective to say the least. I think love languages, like you said at the start of the episode, it's more like somebody's probably just written a book on it. And these are
someone did write a book. He probably fucking made millions from it.
Yeah, no, but I think there's a huge psychological factor behind it in terms of your childhood and how you're raised, and that affects how you communicate your love towards somebody else in the future.
Yeah. I think there's some things that aren't as important in a relationship that people think are important, like hobbies. Like people are like, I need someone with similar interests to me. In my opinion, it doesn't matter at all.
But I think having things in common is important in a relationship. I think having
interest and hobbies.
Not all interest and hobbies, but you need to have something in common in the first place to actually sort of connect you.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
It's like it can either be like a shared passion that you have, like, you know, for example, maybe playing football or like rock climbing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a shared interest like, you know, drawing, arts, all that stuff. So
I think
there needs go on.
I just think people take it a bit too far, and like we need to enjoy every single thing
that
the other person enjoys.
You're right. Like you need to have things in common. You need to have things that you do together. You need to like spend quality time, whether you're like foodies or like foodies mean like you go like going out to eat or like, you know, whatever it might be. But then you also need to have things that you do by yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's important. Exactly. But a lot of people kind of mistake that for having your own life, essentially.
Yeah.
I think you can still have your relationship, but then you can also still incorporate things that you do in your spare time away from your relationship into your relationship, and it's up to the other person if they want to engage in that or not.
Yeah, they don't have to. They don't have to. Like if your partner comes and says, "Oh, I don't like this thing," but it's something that you really enjoy, like. It might be nice to have them like that thing, but it's not the end of the world.
Exactly, man.
You need to have the things that you can enjoy yourself, like you said.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. I think it's like you don't necessarily have to have a life away from the relationship. You can bring it home, or you can bring it wherever, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's having things in common, like you said, not just hobbies and interests, but also the moral side of it. Morals and values, exactly.
Yeah, morals and values need to be, and your overall end goal kind of needs to be the same as well. It's like like
that's true.
I think a true person, or like a person with like some sort of integrity should date to marry, you know.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like if your end goal, I mean, the end goal is not necessarily marriage. The end goal is like sort of building a life together. I think the end goal doesn't really exist in a relationship. It's kind of like you're chasing it all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or it's just something you figure out along the way together.
Exactly. It's like, you know.
And if you don't have the same end goal, that's when you
part ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's when you part ways. But yeah, no. I want to say the end goal, but I can't think of a term to like coin it. I think the objective. The objective is essentially to build a life together. That's why you date somebody. You find somebody that's compatible, you know.
That you want to start a family.
That you want to start a family, or you want to get married to. You know, you want to find somebody that's also good for you as well. And you know, you want to have some sort of common interest, not common interest, but something that brings you together in the first place, and you build a connection upon that.
Yeah.
Don't know why I went like that. And then afterwards you start establishing the morals and the values that you both have, and then I think that's when the love languages kind of comes in, to circle back to what we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just anyway. Your knees are sticking out. Poor sus moment. Yeah, so that's when I think like the love language is kind of important, man, because like it's very easy to sort of misinterpret what somebody would define as love. For example, like an act of service that you do, right, could be seen as something that's not expressing love. It's more so as, you know, doing I don't know how to explain it, doing a favor for somebody or something like that. Or like if you like, let's go with the example of making breakfast for your partner in the morning. Eventually, I feel like if you don't normally do that and you start doing it for your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right? You know, they may not see it as an act of service. They may just see it as, you know, oh, they're doing something nice for me, but doesn't necessarily mean that they love me. They could cheat on me tomorrow. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you, like, I feel like acts of service are just so heavily misplaced when it comes as a love language, but that's a whole separate topic.
I don't know. It's what you're saying before. It comes down to communication.
Yeah, communication is important.
If you're just trying to guess someone's love language or make that your sole focus, then there's going to be a breakdown somewhere. Because if there's not, you might be doing really well in focusing on one love language, say acts of service, but if you're not actually communicating, then there's going to be things that you're missing.
But then I think when it comes to love languages as well, it sort of it definitely does contribute to the downfall of a relationship, and it sort of puts the end goal out of the window. That's what I was kind of saying. Yeah.
There's no real aim with love languages. I just think it's just there, to be honest. It's not the most important thing that you should be focusing on to get into a relationship or to maintain a relationship.
No. For maintaining a relationship,
it's not the most important.
It's not the most important, but I'd definitely put it up there, man. I would put it up there, for sure.
As long as you're focusing on all of them and not just focusing on one. So this person likes this one thing. But like you said before, you need to do all of them. They're just things that you should do in a relationship anyway.
Yeah, no, but
so I would say it's more important in terms of maintaining a relationship as opposed to getting into one.
Yeah, that's I think it's important in terms of sustaining a healthy relationship, because these are things that you should be doing all the time anyway. Yeah, no, I think that's me fully drained on the information on the topic, to be honest.
Yeah, cool. That's our video on love languages, guys. Leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think about love languages, whether they are a bunch of crap or not. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one.
Don't forget a thumbs up.
Peace.